Our next question is from a listener named Vinny, which made me really excited because one of our B&B hosts when we were in Italy was named Vinny. And so I saw the name and I was like,
Yeah.
yes. But he asks, I see a lot of athletes using cold plunges. Should I start doing that too?
That's a great question. And yeah, Vincenzo was great. It was
Yeah.
so hysterical. He kept claiming that his English wasn't great, and his English was phenomenal. Like
Phenomenal.
it was so
So
great,
good.
and great time just bonding with him and learning about the culture with him. It was hysterical because there was one night he made a meal and he was trying to think of the translation of the meal from Italian to English, and the meal was a frittata, which had like salami and pepperoni and prosciutto in it. And he's trying to think of, okay, what's the translation of this word? And we're having dinner with him, and we go, then you made a frittata. And he goes, frittata!
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah. And I'm like, and there's salami in there and pepperoni. He's like, salami, pepperoni. He's like, that's how you say that in America? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like the name of it. Like we kept the name of it. And he was so excited. He was
Yeah.
like,
It was
yeah,
awesome.
he's like, oh, like, you guys just speak Italian. Like, no, we speak meats and food. Like, that's it. So that was fun. But the question about cold plunges, we're seeing this happen more and more and more. And the answer is the classic that it depends.
Mm,
Do you need to use a cold plunge? No. Can you use it? Sure. But it depends on what is your goal. And I'm not going to go too far into the rabbit hole of research behind this because it's developing more and more and more. But
sure.
there are a lot of health benefits to cold plunging. One of them is that it activates brown fat, and brown fat seems to have a lot of health benefits throughout our system. So, activating brown fat from a cold plunge is a really great thing to happen for overall health. Now, after an athletic performance, is it a good thing to cold plunge? Well, what do you have the next day? And something like the CrossFit Games, where they just did 3 to 5 events, and they have another 3 to 5 events tomorrow, and another 3 to 5 events the next day. You're doing whatever you can to be able to feel okay for that next day.
Hmm.
So they're using cold plunges after almost every event, but it's also like how much heat that their body's creating that they're getting in the cold plunge to bring their temperature down so that they can start to recover to then get ready for the next one.
Hmm.
Now, if it's a practice or it's a game and you don't have anything the next day, and let's say that your goal is to develop strength, like that's your goal, hypertrophy, getting strength, cold plunge is shown to actually inhibit strength gains.
Mm.
So if you're a bodybuilder or I don't know, football or hockey athlete and you're trying to pack on muscle and you just put an hour session in and then you go to cold plunge, you're starting to work against yourself with
Mm.
the goals. On the flip side of this, if you're an endurance athlete, the cold plunge has actually been shown to improve endurance capacity. So if you're a cross country runner and you want to improve your distance, improve capacity, then a cold plunge is really good because it helps with type 1 fibers.
Mm.
So you can kind of see the nuances and the science there of that it really depends on what's going on, what's your competition like, what's the next day have in store, and what are your goals.
Hmm. I I'm so glad you brought up cross country because I remember in high school they had ice baths, which similar to cold plunge,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we would go in after practice, and it was so funny because it was this like old school, like metal. I don't even know what it was, and there'd be like five of us standing in there and just like huddled together. And there's some funny memories just like standing in the training room,
Yeah.
like in the ice. But I look back and I'm like, I was never educated on what this was doing for me, and I wasn't the strongest cross country runner, don't at all. But I was not educated. It was more of a like, who's tougher to stay in there longer type of thing. But I think now, 10 years, if not more, since then cold plungers are so trendy. They're
Yeah.
so trendy right now, which sometimes trends are good. I'm not saying they're not, but I'm glad that you're able to give kind of the wisdom of like, okay, if this is specifically for athletes, this is the wisdom, right? Because I also think of like on a hot summer day, even if you're not an athlete, but it's really hot, you might just want to jump in a cold plunge or a cold pool or a cold shower or whatever to
Yeah.
cool down, right? But if you're specifically talking about specific gains as an athlete, I appreciate the wisdom that you shared.
Yeah, for sure. And 2 points from that. The other reason that we could use cold plunge or cold shower is to acclimatize to our environment.
Mm-hmm.
when I was working the sidelines for football, part of their sports med team, leading up to the football season, I was taking cold showers and colder and colder and colder showers. The reason being is because I didn't want to wear sleeves on the sidelines because I thought it would look weak to the players. So I'm like, if I can wear like my polo short sleeve, I wasn't going with a cutoff like that strength coach from Northwestern. Like I was like, nope, not doing that. But if I can wear my polo, then that will show a level of like respect that like
Mm,
this guy can put up with some discomfort, and then it creates that relationship with the athletes of like, okay, you're willing to suffer. Now, if I'm suffering, I'll be more willing to go to you for help. So I'm like, this is the way that I can be the best provider
mhm,
to, or this is a step of a way to be a good provider to these younger athletes. So I cold showered, and every game polos.
mhm.
And then the next season, I was like, you know, I'm just gonna wear sleeves. Like I can still give them really good care when I wear sleeves. So like I
Mhm,
don't need to go through this
mhm,
suffering of cold showers, like really, really cold showers to get ready for that season. So there are
mhm.
different times that you can use it to, acclimate to the weather that's happening. And actually overseas, I think it's the Netherlands. I forget exactly what country it's in, but they do so many things that are really incredible and very intelligent and very intuitive. And they almost hack their nervous system. Like, hear all this neural hacking, but they're ahead of it.
Mm.
So when it starts to get warm, they take really hot showers and they get
Oh,
like a really good sweat in.
yeah.
Or on the first like really warm day, instead of like wearing a tank top, they'll put on sleeves or like a sweater, and they'll make it feel way warmer than it actually is.
Mhm.
So then when it actually gets to summer, it doesn't feel as warm as it was.
Yeah.
Vice versa, the first cold day of the year, they don't wear like coats or long sleeves. They'll go out in short sleeve so that it feels really cold.
Yeah.
But then the next part, when it actually gets into their winter, it doesn't feel as cold because they already kind of shocked their system from the first time around. So,
Mhm.
like, they're kind of using it in a different way
Right.
to get their body, I guess, conditioned to the weather that's going to be upcoming
Yeah.
for that year, which is
That's
fascinating.
brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they also leave their babies out in strollers in the winter. Like it's not like winter like we get in New York,
Yeah.
but they'll go to like the coffee shop and they'll leave the strollers outside, and it's very protected and the babies are safe. But their thought is that this builds up the baby's tolerance, it builds up their immunity. And I'm like, wow, that's cool, but I can't imagine doing that here in the States. Like
Not in the
people would
States.
freak
Yeah.
out. There'd probably be some litigation and things
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, it's really cool things of temperature of how we do
Mhm.
it. And it's kind of cool. It relates back to the first question with
The
like
weather.
feeling the weather changes and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. There was one year that I did like cold showers through the winter, and I look back and I think it's a good discipline, but I'm also like sometimes in the winter you just want that cozy warmth, and then
Yeah.
to discipline yourself to not have it can be tough, but I mean, with most things it always comes back to like what's your goal?
Yeah.
What's your desire? What are you trying to get at here?
Yeah. And if you're one of your goals is I want to become resilient to suffering and discomfort, a cold shower is a great way
Yeah.
to do that.